Hello, this is Roman Gabriel, and you are listening to The Grueling Truth.
Welcome to The Grueling Truth Show, The Real Deal. I'm your host, Josh Benjamin. This show has various sports topics, and we are now available on Google Music, Spreaker, Stitcher, iTunes, and, of course, our website, www.thegruelingtruth.net. And you can listen to our shows anytime you like. Tonight's topic is part 2 of our coaching series, and I have one guest this week, and his name is Doug Marcum. Doug, welcome to The Real Deal. How you doing today?
Good. How are you, Josh?
I'm doing well, thanks. Could you go ahead and just kind of talk about your coaching resume, per se, and kind of give the listeners a background of who you are as a coach?
I've coached at various youth levels. I've coached grade school to junior high football, assistant coach. I've also coached freshman and JV baseball, as well as several youth basketball teams, and then also coach a competitive men's softball team.
So you definitely hit multiple levels of at least ages, and obviously levels of athletics and different sports. So that's a great guest to have on when it comes to coaching and those different abilities on being able to reach those different age levels. I asked last week to Coach Eric Hepner and asked him why did he decide to coach. Can you kind of give us a few reasons, if not more, why you decided to coach?
The two main reasons I decided to get into coaching, one was to carry on tradition that I felt was and opportunities that were given to me when I was a youth. Had some great youth coaches and high school coaches that, I realized they were giving up a lot of their own time, but were not only teaching me lessons about the game we were playing, but also life lessons that to this day I still use, 42 years old, and still use some of those life lessons that I've learned from those guys. So that was important to me to kind of carry that tradition on. And then also just really had a passion for every sport growing up. And as you get older and the body breaks down and you can no longer do those things, it's a way to stay in those games and keep that competitiveness and also, be involved with the game directly instead of just watching from the couch. So those are my two main reasons. And then another big reason is the ability to coach my daughters and her youth basketball team, which was, of everything I've ever done, was by far my biggest thrill this year, was to be able to coach her. So those are the main reasons I got into coaching.
The reasons you gave and reasons why what I gave last week and Coach Hepner gave seem kind of fall in line with the life lessons you learn, and because you're so ingrained in sports from youth, when you're a youth player, all the way up to whenever you stop playing due to your body or ability or whatever, that, and then, of course, the passion and the love for the game is obviously got to be important too. So obviously two huge reasons. And the last reason, I hope I get to do that someday with my son, is be able to coach just like anybody else, I would think, with coach their child or children in a sport that they love and their child loves, and being able to see that other side, see that different angle when it comes to being with your child. So excellent points there, Doug. You've coached at various levels. Motivation obviously has to be part of your recipe for success when it comes to building a program, building a team, and so on. How have you motivated your players in any level, and kind of, jump into, maybe it's words, maybe it's situations. Just tell the listeners, of course, how do you motivate your players?
I think one thing as either a head coach or an assistant coach or as a staff, you want to set a goal and a vision of what you want your program to be. And ultimately that goal is kept priority number one. But at the same time, no two players react the same. Some you have to discipline, through punishments as running in football or, suicides in basketball or things of that nature. Others you have to, challenge them. Maybe they have the talent, but they don't always push themselves. So you have to constantly find ways to challenge them, get them to push themselves to a limit maybe they didn't know they had, but you see it in them. And in others, you really just need a confidence boost. You run into, especially at the younger ages, you see a lot of kids that, they're not confident in what they're doing. So you find a way to show them, different things that they're doing correctly that are helping the team, and they're fitting into the goal and being a valuable member of the team, and then boosting their confidence that way. And then once you see that confidence come out, then you see their game just start to blossom. And especially with the younger kids, that seems to be more of a issue. Is when you're at practice and you're kind of playing around with your friends, you see glimpses, but then you get in a game, they might freeze up because they're just not confident. But I think you have to know your team, know your players, know what motivates each one of them, and motivate each player towards that common goal. It's not an easy thing to do. That's the ideal thing to do, but I think that's the big thing, is knowing your players and how to get the best out of each one of those players towards the common goal of the team.
Yeah, and kind of to go off what you said about having that common goal, last week I talked with Coach Ebner about some philosophies and things like that, and one of the things was having that objective-driven philosophy and sharing that with your players. Having communication, obviously, it has to be important. Otherwise, your program isn't going to be successful with your players, with your parents, with your staff, and in that respected sport. So, obviously, communication towards that common goal, which may easily motivate players. A lot of
Absolutely.
us are – I'm sorry?
No, I was agreeing. Absolutely. Yeah, the communication is huge on what the team goal is and what you're trying to accomplish. Very important.
I totally agree. And a lot of us are award-driven, whether it's that championship ring, whether that was that trophy, whatever it is. All of us want to be there. At least I can speak for myself and people that I know that play sports. They want that top dog award. They want to be number one. And a lot of them will do whatever it takes to be number one. Obviously, somebody has to fall short, but that motivation when it comes to communicating with that common goal is vital for that success in that program. And, how you said at the very beginning about being able to meet every player's needs, whether it's motivation, whether it's that confidence boost. And I couldn't agree more with what you said about the youth levels and giving confidence. Unfortunately, I've seen coaches, just degrade youth players, and that's a bad taste in that player's mouth when it comes to wanting to continue that sport or even participate in that team. And, coaches like you, Doug, and the coaches I've had on before have a great mindset when it comes to being positive, whatever level that is. You obviously have to refocus some players, per se, when it comes to getting things accomplished as a team, whether they are, unfortunately, selfish or driven in some other matter that's not going to benefit the team. And but positive, being confident, those are all very important. And motivate players, going back to what we originally talked about, being able to put them in situations, whether that's the confidence boost, whether that's just to get them excited, whether that's to mold the team into one unit, however that is, those are important as well. And I just want to add to that because I think what you had said, Doug, was spot on. And I thought that adding that communication to that would be very important, especially for those young aspiring coaches out there listening and wanting to be, in that field of dedication and determined for being able to be a coach. So I think that those are excellent points.
I think the one thing, too, with youth sports that I think really need to be focused on is, depending on how young, I know once you get to a certain age and a certain level, let's say, it's AAU or travel ball or let's say varsity football or something, the tone changes. But when kids are in the developmental stages, I think it's very important to really just work constantly on fundamentals and get the kids comfortable with the actual game itself. I know it's easy to say don't focus on the score because, like you said, everybody wants to win. But I think a lot of times, especially at the lowest youth levels, coaches and parents need to really back off that. I think if you can see improvement in your kid from week to week or in the team from week to week, and they love the game and they're not getting driven away because they're being berated or, not playing or not enjoying themselves, that's what really hurts. I believe the overall development of kids is most of the time the adults ruin it for them, unfortunately. So at the lowest levels, I think development of fundamentals and overall team skills are the most important thing. And like I said, as you get older, those goals and things change because that's when you really start chasing rings and chasing state championships and things like that. Then it becomes more focused on that. But and I've dealt on both levels, and I actually really enjoyed the youth part of it, of just teaching the game, teaching the fundamentals, doing drills, letting the girls see the improvement from week to week. That was more rewarding, honestly, than winning some bigger things that I've won as a coach. But I really do think that a lot of times, like you were saying, kids can be driven away because of the attitudes or the demand placed on them at a young age.
I didn't interrupt you there. I'm sorry, but I wanted to just touch on one experience. I was an official, a referee for a youth basketball organization in a city close by, and it was, I believe it was first and second graders. We combined those two grades, and those kids are, I believe, 5, 6, maybe 7 years old, and they were keeping score, and the score was outrageous, and you could obviously tell, even if you didn't see the score, who was winning. But having that score up there for that team that was getting beat, if it was a high school team, that's a different story. That's more cutthroat. That's more responsibility among the players. But 5, 6, 7-year-olds doing those things and seeing those things pushes them away. Obviously, everyone's frustrated in that moment, but we took the score off the scoreboard. We said, let's not have that. It was a ridiculous amount, and so jumping off the tracks here a little bit, but motivating players, that's not going to help situations like that. So both coaches obviously aren't probably paid coaches; they're probably volunteers, and hopefully they recognize that right away and make sure and ensure that those teams understand situations of winning and losing, like you talked about, and also that type of atmosphere when it comes to those types of situations that I mentioned there. Speaking of players, I think everyone has their own opinion on this, but as a coach at least, the perfect player, and we could probably talk about the perfect player for a couple hours, Doug.
Yeah.
It's such a touchy situation because it involves your coaching philosophy. It involves the style in which you play, whatever sport that is. And it could be physical attributes, it could be mental attributes, it can be all those different types of traits. But if I were to ask you the perfect player, what kind of traits would that perfect player have, and what would they be? So go along with that.
I think the perfect player, and this I think would go for me for all sports, football, basketball, and baseball that I've coached, is someone who's naturally gifted, is fast, is, very athletic just naturally, but it has a willingness to learn and listen and comprehend quickly what's being taught to them. But not only that, is also self-motivated to where they'll